The CS2 market recently did bounce off of the lows, and we are still just ranging above them. So that tells us that we still have some great buying opportunities in front of us for long-term investments. And in this video, I'm actually going to be talking about some CS2 cases that you can invest in and make a ton of money off of. But first, let's actually address the market currently. Like I said, we are up a bit. In the last 7 days, we only bounced about 1.65%. In the last 30 days, we're still down about 6.71%. And in the last 90 days, we're only up about 2.13%. So the market has barely moved, and we are still down from that recent all-time high because of the recent update. Now, we did talk about some very high price skins to look into. We also talked about some cases previously, and in that video, I talked about the fracture case. Now, if you guys do know about the fracture case, it is one of the oldest cases in current rotation, and we're just waiting for one of them to get taken out. In my opinion, it's either going to be the fracture case, the revolution case, or the recoil case. And a lot of people are looking at the fracture case because it is the oldest one in current rotation. This definitely is a cheap, case to actually invest into for the long term, especially if we do get it taken out of rotation, because the price will skyrocket from that point on. But we're not here to talk about the fracture case. We're not here to talk about the recoil case or even the revolution case. We are more so looking at some cases that could skyrocket to $10+ or even more. Now, I will say right now, I am going to mention a case that is actually pretty expensive in this video, maybe even two cases, but I'm mentioning them for a reason. But if we actually look at the case market still, a lot of these cases, especially the most sought after cases, are down in a big way even now, with the market still having that nice bounce. For an example, if we actually look at like the glove case, it's still down about 16% in the last 30 days. The last 60 days, it's almost 20%. And even in the last 7 days, it's down about 5.67%. So this is telling us that the market hasn't really bounced in a big way just yet. And this is still providing us with some nice buying opportunities. Now, the first case that I actually want to go over is one that's not in active rotation. And it's one that's actually still very cheap, even though it's not in active rotation. And that's simply because of the supply not getting eaten up because of demand. And that's actually the snake bite case. So for a lot of people, they don't really care about this case. And it's mainly because the golds in it are just not the best. But considering the fact that this case is not in active rotation, and if we look at the all-time chart, it's not that crazy in terms of a nice gain on this chart yet. And we still have these highs back here from 2023 that we could hit. Now, this is almost $1 or so in value, and currently right now on some of these exchanges, more so if we're really kind of looking at like CS Float, you can get it for about 63 cents. On some of these other exchanges, if you're looking at like Skinport, then it's around those highs. But I still think that this is going to be a good case to invest into for the long term. There's some great overall skins in this case. I actually like a lot of the skins that are included in this case, even some of the blues and even the pinks and the purples. But the coverts are just not the best, which is why this case hasn't gotten eaten up in terms of the supply, but that could change easily over time. The golds in it are not the worst. They're not the best. There are some good gloves in this case. For an example, the slingshots, or even some of the, I know people like the Nox, even the snow leopards are pretty good as well. But in terms of like those highly sought after gloves, they're really not included in this one. But this still does have some nice golds. It still has some nice skins. And I think that this could be a good long-term investment, considering the fact that over time, the supply will diminish more and more. And then the price of this case will go up significantly. Now, I will say in the last 52 weeks, it is up 400%. But the 52-week high, we're down about 17% from. So this is a nice sell-off in the market that allows us to actually buy up the snakebite case on the nice low. So I would say that this is definitely a good, one to look into and potentially even invest into for the long term. I currently hold none of these cases because, again, I see a lot of people saying that I'm trying to like pump my investments. Guys, I'm just going to be honest with you. I have about 50 subscribers on this channel. I cannot move the market like that. But I definitely do think that this is going to be a case to look into. And next up is the Shattered Web case. Again, a lot of these are not, like none of these are actually in active rotation, but the Shattered Web case is one that is a little bit more high priced. So if you're looking at this case and you're saying, all right, well, I could get snake bites for about 50 cents or so, this case is actually extremely sought after, which is why the value of it is as high as it is. In terms of going over to CS Float, it's about $6.50. On Skinport, it's about $7.37. Now, obviously, if you buy this on Skinport or CS Float, you're not going to get 1,000 of them for that price. The price is going to change as you do buy up, this case. But the good news about this case is if we look at the all-time chart, yeah, it has skyrocketed in value, but over time, and since it got taken out of active rotation, a ton of these cases have actually been opened. And a lot of people have been looking into this case to even hold as well for investments, which is why the price has gone crazy. But the main reason why I'm mentioning this is because if we actually look at the Shattered Web case, the 52-week high, we're only down about 27% from that 52-week high, but we have a nice sell-off in the market for this case, which is giving us a great entry point for the mid to long term. And I do think that this is going to be a case that bounces extremely hard when the market bounces back as well, because of the skins and the golds that are actually in this case. For an example, if we actually look at some of the skins in this case, the Containment Breach op looks incredible in CS2. Even a lot of these other, skins like the Decimator Tech 9, the Decimator Tech 9 went crazy in value because of how it looks in CS2. A lot of the skins in this case are extremely overlooked, and they look very solid in CS2, which is why I do think that a lot of people would want this case. And on top of that, the golds. So when it comes to the golds in this case, some of them are but I will say there's some nice fades in here. There's a lot of case hardens, which I think is going to be right next to, of course, the Crimson Webs, right? I think that the case hardens and the Crimson Webs, they're going to be the most sought after drops in this case for anyone that's hunting golds, because they will want a blue gem, and they'll either want the blue gem in the skeleton knife, the nomad knife, or if we scroll back up, the survival knife. So, and also the paracord knife, by the way. So when we think about this, a lot of people are going to be probably buying up this case long-term for, major openings or even just holding it. So I think that the supply for this one will definitely matter in a big way. And it's one that the supply to demand ratio, it's going to squeeze the price higher. So this is definitely one to also look into while the prices of cases are still on the low. Now, next up, we have the Operation Broken Fang case. Again, this is one that has over time gone crazy in value. Released back in 2020, the supply has gotten eaten up. A lot of people have done openings with this case, which is why you can see the value of this case going insane. I'm mainly looking at these types of cases that are extremely sought after, not in active rotation, that are going to continue to go up in value because more and more people are either opening them, buying up the supply, and I just think that these are going to be good long-term investments. And when we think about the Broken Fang case, again, if we're looking at those 52-week highs, we're down significantly, almost 40%. So this will make us money once the market really bounces back. And this is another one of those cases that has incredible skins in it and even incredible golds as well. The golds are not very similar to even the snakebite, right? The golds are they're not extremely sought after. There's some nice gloves in this case, a little bit more than the snakebite, but again, the main selling point for this case itself is the skins, because when you look at the skins for this, you have incredible skins that look great. The Printstream M4S is the main one to really kind of look at here. It's one of the most expensive M4S skins in the game. Then you also have the Glock Neo Noir. I always loved the Neo Noir. I remember when it first launched in game. It's a gun skin that I've always hunted, even with the USPS and even the M4A4. But outside of that, you also have the Monster Mashup, the Cybersecurity, the Fairy Tale. Like, some of these skins are just very clean. Outside of that, the rest of the skins are not that great, which is because of course, the rarity of them. But I still think that this is going to be a case that will continue to go up in value, especially once more and more of the supply gets eaten up. And again, at this time, with the market being down the way it is, at a 40% discount, you really can't beat it. And then next up, we have, and last but not least, the Operation Riptide. So this is probably the most expensive one out of all of these cases, simply because it's one that has been out for a while from 2021, but the main selling point here is the golds. And this is where you could actually see that factor being a huge part of the reason why some of these cases are as expensive as they are. If we look at the value of this case, it has definitely gone crazy. I still think that this continues. It's just like when we think about like the weapon case, right? The weapon case has gone insane over the years, and it's simply because of supply and demand ratios, and also the golds and the skins that are included. With the weapon case, it's more so about the AK-47 case hardened. But when we look at the Riptide case, the golds in this are extremely sought after. You have the Gamma Doppler falchion knives. Even the lures are pretty good. You have a lot of Gamma Dopplers in here. And on the bottom, you have the holy grail of Gamma Dopplers, the butterfly knife. Even the Autotronic is solid here. Any case that has a butterfly knife in it is going to be extremely expensive because there's not a massive supply of butterfly knives. They're one of like the most sought after knives in this game. And if we're thinking about that, the cases that do have them are going to be very expensive. Now, like I said, the skins also are very clean looking. I mean, a lot of people don't like some of these skins, but I actually think that they look great. Especially the Ocean Drive Deagle. I think that it looks incredible for those that don't know what it looks like, because it is a rarer Deagle skin, but in CS2, I mean, man, it just looks so crisp. But when we are thinking about some of the other the skins in this case, they also look pretty decent, and I just think that this is going to be one of those cases that just continues to go up in value. And considering how much demand there is for this skin, or for this case, sorry, the 52-week high is not down that much, but it's still a 22% discount. So these are some great cases to think about, especially while the market is still down. I think that once we start to really kind of bounce back, these are going to be the cases that are really going to squeeze even higher in value, especially considering how rare they are. They're not in active drops. So definitely take a look into them. I will say a very solid mention is still the fact that we should be focused on some of the cases that are not taken out of active pool drops yet, which is why I'm focused on the recoil, the fracture, and even the revolution cases, because I do think that one of those three are going to get taken out, and once it does, they are going to skyrocket in value as well. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on to never miss a future update. And with that being said, this has been Nick. Peace out, guys.